Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my 5,000 subscribers Q&A video. It's an absolute pleasure to have your company today. Before I kick off with any of the questions and answers, I just wanted to quickly say up front, thank you very much for everything. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for watching my previous videos and compositions, whether you just be the casual listener or whether you are a hardcore patron who enjoys all of the bonus stuff that I do. All very much appreciated. In the lead up to this, I've been looking a bit at my stats, or my analytics as YouTube calls it, and been kind of blown away. I know 5,000 isn't a huge channel, but you know, sometimes in my peak I can get 200 to 300 video views in an hour. And so what we're talking either 3, 4 or 5 views per minute, which is astonishing to me. I remember when I was younger, maybe 18, the way I was able to get a view back then was to invite my friend over, lock them in my room, turn on my computer, or get the CD, put into the CD player and say, listen to this, and force them to listen to it. That was a view. That was how I got my views 14 years ago. And they'd always go, yeah, that's all right. So to think that that's happening so many times per hour is just astonishing. So thank you very much for being part of that for me. Makes me feel amazing. Thank you also to everyone who writes comments under my videos. I read all of them. So if you do want to say something or suggest something, by all means go ahead and comment. Don't be shy. Right, thank you also to everyone who asked a question for this Q&A video and for accepting my challenge of trying to think of questions I'd not been asked before. I have a set of brilliant questions, and hopefully this isn't going to take too long to get through all of them, because some of them are very deep. But I'll do my best. I'll do my best to answer everything, and to answer everything as honestly as I possibly can. And at the end of the video, I will be revealing who is the writer of my favourite question, and that person is going to win my entire discography for free. How exciting. But you'll have to wait till the end of the video. I think that's all I want to say up front. Apologies in advance if I pronounce names incorrectly. But let's move on to the questions and answers. My first 5 questions are not questions, they're comments. So I'm going to answer the comments first of all. So the first question is from Sylvia, who says, "Ciao, Robert," and I say thank you, Sylvia. Thank you for all of your wonderful work and all of your comments. The second comment is from Egon Souza, who says, "Congratulations, Robert, success for you, and happiness and success for you too, Egon, in your life." The third comment is from Chelsea the cat, who says, "Congratulations." Thank you, Chelsea, and also congratulations for winning the free copy of Cruise Control. El Maspato says, "Dude, you look so creepy." Do I? I think probably you're trying to say I look quite scary, and it's probably the long hair that you're talking about. And I must say, I never used to be a long-haired man. I used to have short hair. I was born with hardly any hair, if you can believe that. So it's grown over a long period of time. And when I decided to grow long hair when I was 20, I think, it's come with some unexpected benefits. And one of those benefits certainly is that because I look a little scarier, I feel safer in the street. And I've definitely had the comments when I've been walking down the street with my favourite girl. She said, "Yeah, I feel much safer when I'm around with you than when I'm walking on my own." So that's got to be a good thing. I suspect that no one really wants to mess with me, this kind of big, long-haired guy. I'm probably a criminal of some sort, so no one wants to touch me. So that's actually very useful thing to have. I'm sure others of you who are long-haired men will relate to that. So thanks for your comment. And my final comment is from Aphronimus, who says, "Very disturbing camera angle." Really, I didn't actually pick up on that, but I'll just sort of have a look and see what you mean. What is the angle? 130 degrees. 130 degrees, that's what, 10 times 13. Oh, I see, 13. Yes, that is disturbing, isn't it? That is a very disturbing camera angle. And you know what? I am amazed that you were able to pick up on that. Thank you for letting me know. I will be very careful in the future. Okay, let's now move on to the actual questions that were posted under my questions needed video. First question comes from Xylo Piano. And Xylo, you've always been a wonderful commenter under my videos, so I'm absolutely thrilled to answer your question. Xylo asks, what's it like living in Australia? There are a lot of jokes about it being filled with killer animals, tough people who curse a lot, etc. How accurate would you say that is? Also, how often do you and other people use Aussie slang? Brilliant question, Xylo. Well, the first thing I should say is I'm not in Australia anymore. I actually moved to the United Kingdom in September last year. But I have spent 30 years of my life in Australia, so I'm very happy to answer that. In terms of killer animals being everywhere, they're not everywhere, but they are there if you look for them. There are some nasty snakes and spiders. I can tell you a couple of funny stories if you want. About 10 years ago, when I was first in the UK, I was working at an online high school teaching what's called GCSE mathematics to British children, which is children aged 15, 16, that kind of level, kind of algebra, quadratic equations, that kind of thing. Some of you might know what I mean. But when I moved back to Australia for the first time, I kept teaching from Australia, teaching the British children, and I'd be working on my computer, and because it's quite hot in Australia, I would often choose not to wear shoes or socks, hopefully pants, but definitely on this particular occasion I was barefoot. And these lessons that I would teach, we would record them, very much like I'm recording this now, because if students missed the online lessons, they could watch them back later. So I was, unfortunately, this incident didn't happen when I was in the middle of a lesson. I wish it did. I was actually just marking some assignments, and I had the microphone set up and everything. And a spider ran over my foot, and I screamed very loud, and I jumped up on my swivel chair, which of course makes you swivel around, and I had to get family to come in and deal with the situation. But if only that was while I was teaching, it would have been amazing, because all the students would have heard. The students couldn't see me, they could just hear me. All they would have heard was, and then we substitute in x equals 2. Oh my god! It would have been something very funny like that. So if I had that, I would have kept it and I would have shown it to you. So that was pretty funny. Second funny story. It's not really a funny story, but last year, my roommate, she shrieked out and said, "Robert, come for help." And I said, okay. And she said, there's a snake in the house. I thought, oh, okay. And she's very scared of snakes and anything like that. She was brought up in Sydney in a very kind of tightly concealed home, no wildlife at all. So I came, and there was just this little snake running across, and she was saying, what are we going to do? And I thought, okay, well, I actually have to go to teach a lecture, and she was going to drive me to the train station. So I said, well, I need you to drive me. And she said, I'm not leaving, just leaving the snake in the house. And I said, okay, well, let's catch it. So I got a plastic container, quite a big one, and kind of jumped and threw it on the snake. The snake was probably only yay big and sort of fairly thin. So I captured the snake, but there were these little holes, so I stuffed these pillows in the kind of the holes on the either ends of the container, and that was fine. And then we picked up all of these heavy boxes and put it on top of the plastic container, so that there was no way that the snake was going anywhere, as if it could lift up a whole container. But anyway, I had to satisfy her that it wasn't going to move, and so that when she came back home, she could deal with it. And she texted her boyfriend, who was going to be coming home from work anyway, so he was going to come and deal with it. So she took me to the train. Fine, I did my lecture, came back, and so when her boyfriend came home, he rang the snake handlers and sent some pictures, and it turned out to be what's called an eastern brown snake, which is one of the deadliest snakes, even if they're small ones. So I was just casually throwing over this plastic carton over one of the deadliest snakes. So apparently the boyfriend managed to wrap everything up, and they drove 20 minutes away, drove 20 minutes away to release the snake, and they kind of had to tip the box over. But apparently it was so angry that when the box tipped over, it turned around the grass and ran towards them, and they both ran to the car, slammed the door, and sped off, leaving the box. Like the box is gone, the container, and the snake might be still chasing them to this day. I don't know. Now, those are very rare situations like that. Normally in the cities, you don't see anything like that. There'll be occasional spiders that you get told are dangerous, but the thing with most dangerous animals is they don't want to confront you. You're only going to have a problem if you poke them, and so we're taught from a very young age not to poke animals and not to interrupt them, just to let them go about their business, and everything will be fine. So yes, that's I guess sort of true, sort of not true, sort of 50% true, I guess. Tough people who curse a lot. I laughed when I read this, probably because it is so recognisable. So yes, Australians do swear a lot, especially those at my generation. There is a stereotypical tough Aussie, not so much the Paul Hogan Crocodile Dundee type. You have to go sort of deep into the country to find people like that, but Australians like to be, especially Australian men like to be kind of tough men. Not everyone, but that's certainly true. That the kind of guy who can fix your car and who can wrangle a snake and wrestle a crocodile. Not that ever really happens, but yeah, that's true to an extent. But not everyone, and it's not that different. I'm maybe talking a 10% difference from people in the UK. I'm guessing. How often do people use Aussie slang? Probably not very often. The Aussie slang you're thinking of. G'day is not kind of said that often. Struth is, you wouldn't normally say that. We tend to just kind of slur our words a bit and say yup, nup, yeah, yep. Yeah, nah, yeah, whatever, yep, sure, fine, whatever. And we like to shorten words a lot, so instead of service station, you won't say I'm popping out to the service station, you just say I'm popping out to the servo. Or do you want to come over for a barbecue? Come over for a barbie. Just really shorten words, and that's kind of quite sweet. I kind of like that. And there's another nice couple of Australian sayings I like, which is no worries. No worries means don't worry about it. So if you ask me to do something for you, say, oh, Robert, can you come and pick me up from the train station later? I'll say, no worries. Yeah, I'll do it. Don't even worry about it. Don't think about it. And another similar expression to that is too easy. Too easy. Yeah, too easy. That's so easy for me to do that you don't even have to worry about asking me. So that's quite charming. That's the kind of, I guess, Aussie slang that tends to get used the most. But as I said, the type that you probably hear about in movies, not so much, yeah. Okay, Leon Garza asks, if you had kids, would you give them away to a musical school? Well, yes, if they weren't going to give them back, that might be quite useful. No, so I think what you're trying to ask is if I have kids, will I send them to a school that specialises in music education? I don't have children yet, but I certainly want to, and might well do in the next 5 years. I would say that I'll probably look to expose my children to as many different things as possible, musical things, sporty things, even things like soccer that I don't like. I'd still quite happily drive children to soccer games and watch them play a boring game, but if they love it, that's completely fine. So I'd want to create the conditions necessary for my kids to decide what they want to do. I don't necessarily think that they would have to follow in my footsteps or anyone's footsteps, really. It's probably quite likely that if they've got a mum and dad doing musical things, that they'll want to do music things as well. That's completely fine. And I've also just realised that if and when I do have children, and if they grow up, and if YouTube is still around, they might be watching this video in the future. Hello! Hope you've been good. This is Daddy from the past before you were born. So yes, if they ask for it, absolutely. Yeah, if that's what they wanted, sure. they might show me this video when they're old enough and I'm telling them no. They go, you said you would. Who knows? And then Leon, you said, yeah, dude, I like to ask the most random questions. Do you like heavy metal? And if you do, have you ever heard of Necrogoblicon? I like some forms of heavy metal. I don't tend to like screaming and shouting, that kind of thing. It can, for me, it can work sometimes. I tend to be more of a Nightwish kind of side, symphonic metal kind of person. As for Necrogoblicon, I haven't heard of them, but they sound lovely. N. Fabri asks, do you listen to Theatre of Tragedy? No, I haven't. I've probably only heard one of their songs. I don't listen to much music, but my 3 favourite metal bands or bands of that area are Nightwish, Rhapsody, Fire, Sonata Arctica, and I should also add to the list Ian Lucassen and his Aryan series, and the other things that he does as well. He's kind of also jumped into my top 3, so I've got 4 now inside the top 3, happily coexisting. Yeah. Ekaterina. Hello, Ekaterina. Again, another person whose comments I love seeing under my videos, so it's fantastic for you to ask a question. She asks, what is your favourite food to munch on when you work on music? Or perhaps, like me, you just drink endless tea? Good question. I don't eat, actually, when I am writing music. If I do have a vice or something that I munch on, it's actually a drink. I'm a Coke addict. I'm a Coca-Cola guy. I drink far too much of that. I've switched to Coke Zero, actually. Coke Zero Sugar. I'm convinced that it tastes close enough to the real thing, and I can get away with it. So that tends to be it for me. Yeah, in terms of food, no, I try and keep it separate. I try and eat separately. But yeah, that's my comfort food, really. I don't drink alcohol, or at least if I do, it's maybe once a year when I'm kind of forced to. When someone buys me something and I'd feel bad turning it down. So yeah, that's it for me. Yeah, not that exciting, is it? Now, Blitz says, congrats yo with the subs. Thank you, Blitz. Question coming up. What is your favourite horror film that you would probably love to share with others? Oh, boring answer for you, Blitz. I don't really watch horror films. I don't really watch films. I think I've seen one horror film in my life, but I don't know what it's called. But I do remember the kind of hockey mask thing. And when I say see the film, it just would have been on TV. And so I probably didn't even see all of it. But I didn't find it that interesting, actually. I've sort of since learned that the idea is to try and scare you out, but it was just a film, and I think I prefer things that are interesting to think about rather than things to shock you. Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry I can't share with you your love of horror films, which I'm guessing you have. Yeah. Kathy Pryor says, congrats on 5k subs. Thank you, Kathy. What kind of music songs resonate with you the most? Resonate with me the most? Well, I've had to think about this. And I'm going to take your question as music that I listen to. And it certainly songs with singing can resonate with me more than instrumental songs, but instrumental songs can be amazing too. I think it has to be, because when songs resonate with you, it's something you can relate with. I'm sure this is what you mean, where it kind of beats with your own heart. And for me, that would have to be songs which are about the fear of not finding anyone to love you. Because when I was younger, teenager, and very early 20s, I was not crippled by this fear, but certainly existed and was something that I thought about for a long time. And even though for 10 years I've been cured of this fear through events, and I'm sure you can fill in the gaps, I still love listening to that fear being articulated through music. I think that's why I fell in love with a lot of Nightwish's lyrics and Nightwish's songs, especially earlier on, because of that similar problem that the lyricist was having, I guess. So that has to be my answer. Songs with that emotion resonate with me more than anything else, even though I no longer have this fear. I still enjoy exploring it when listening to music. So thank you for that fantastic question. Jacqueline Frost asks, does it bother you when people comment stories in your comment section? No, not at all. They are probably my favourite types of comment, when people write what the music makes them feel, or a story that it makes them think of. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think that's how I like my music to be thought of, as a storytelling mechanism. So that's absolutely fantastic. So much so that just recently I've actually decided to reward the best comment that tells a story or explains how the composition feels. You may have noticed this in my last 3 releases at the date of recording, that I offered the MP3 for free for my favourite comment in the first week, and that's what Chelsea the Cap won for Cruise Control. So that doesn't bother me at all. Jürgen Uvel, I remember that name. Thanks very much for commenting again. He says, hi again, hello. It's nice to see your channel growing and hitting 5,000 soon. Thank you. Question, are there any songs that you composed but were not quite good enough for you to put on YouTube? That's a tricky question. That's a good question. I have 2 answers. Yes and yes, but they're different yeses, so I'll have to explain, won't I? Okay, my first yes would be that, yes, sometimes I put something together and I think it's not working. If that happens, what I will do is do something else instead. I'll put it on the back burner and I'll give myself a few months to think about what else I could do with it. Because normally there'll be something nice, there'll be a nice melody in there somewhere, or there'll be something that works, and I'll rework it. I'll put it as something else and release it that way. So an idea will never get wasted in that sense. But yeah, it's not as if every time I sit down I finish and I've got something that I'm perfectly happy with. Most of the time I'm pretty good with it, but maybe let's say 1 in 10 it'll happen where I throw it out and put it into something else. Now, it should also be said, this is still within the first yes, that a lot of my compositions, and my patrons will know about this, are remakes of very old compositions I did when I was much younger. And I tended to take my favourite ones of those and put them out first in my YouTube channel about 2 or 3 years ago, and my least favourite ones I'm now tending to put out with a little bit of a rework, and so I've been sort of slightly worried that they're not going to be as good as the earlier ones, but it goes to show that I don't know anything, because probably my least favourite of my old compositions, after I reworked, I put out last year, and it's called Dark Ruins, and it just shot up. People love it, absolutely love it, and it astonishes me because I think it's good enough, but not my best. So that just goes to show that I don't know anything, really. Then again, I'm a little bit worried that people only like it because it's got pipe organ and choir in it, and not because of the actual construction of it. I tend to listen to music for the notes and the chords and the structure of it, and not so much the choice of instruments or how it sounds. So it might well be that it just sounds good, rather than actually being good. But I don't know. So that certainly does happen. Now there is a second yes, because I do have a collection of works that I did well before I started a YouTube channel, well before YouTube existed. That I'm very proud of, would be good to put up, but they don't really fit with everything I've got so far. And this is in my early 20s, I was part of an internet forum for Final Fantasy music, and I used to sing myself quite badly, singing Final Fantasy pieces and uploading them, because I had a microphone, not as good as this one, but you know, I had Audacity, and I knew what to do. And I sort of became known as the person who likes to sing a lot.
I'm a stronger man by far. There is power in me, yet my race is not yet run. Sometimes I sit and count all day, but sometimes I get carried away. I count slowly, getting faster. Once I've started counting, it's very hard to stop. Hey! Faster, it is so exciting. I can count forever, count until I drop. Oh, one typically me. Oh, baby. Whoops, I did it again. I ate all your cake, got lost in the taste. Oh, baby, whoops, you will not be happy. In fact, you'll be crappy. I owe you 20 cents.
And on my 20th birthday, someone said to me, "Hey, Robert, you should, happy birthday, you should sing yourself a birthday song." And I read it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I thought, oh, that's such a good idea, I should. So I kind of wrote this really cheesy, self-appraising birthday song called "It's My Birthday" in about 4 hours, and uploaded it and said, this is for you. And I put his name in the bridge as well, so he knew that I wrote it because of what he said.
Let out all my hair and scream so loud that everyone will be looking at me. Na 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 na. It's my birthday, yeah. It's my birthday, yeah. Na 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 na. It's my birthday, yeah. It's my birthday, yeah.
And that was really quite funny. Everyone really enjoyed it. And then I started writing songs for other people's birthdays, because on forums in those days you could see when everyone's birthday was. So I started writing songs for these other friends of mine and for their birthdays. I did 9 of them, and they were quite funny.
It's Angela's Nocturne. Happy birthday to the great and awesome Cammy. Because Cammy, is your birthday today. Why? 'Cause you don't scare me. 'Cause you don't scare me. Yeah. Mary, quite contrary. Happy birthday, Mary.
Lass es uns trinken, Brot Deutschen. Tim ist unser Freund, Tim ist nett und höflich. Jeder mag Tim. Ice Queen, you fly away from sight. I've seen the way you serve the right. Ice Queen, doesn't mean that I have lost the fight.
I could write you a love song. I could write you a hate song. Is there such thing as a hate song? I suppose there is, mate. So it really don't matter what I serve on this platter, just as long as you know that it's your birthday today. Which you probably already knew, but you know, far too well. Oh well, oh well, oh well, oh well, oh well. The angel would say, oh well, oh well, oh well. I'll have to come up with something anyway. Oh, Smokey Joe, you're a smoking bad, and that is true. Your enemies just don't know what to do with you.
I'm not a very good singer, but I think I get away with it a little bit when it's comedy, because when you're singing comedy lyrics, it's more about the cleverness of the words and the cleverness of the rhyming schemes and that kind of thing. You can kind of get away with not being a very good singer. I've wondered whether I should release them or whether I should re-record them with like an opera singer or something really funny like that, and then have the originals as alternative versions. But I don't think so. I'm happy for me to change my mind on that sometime in the future. Yeah, that would be an example of something I've written which I don't think is quite good enough for the YouTube channel. Certainly at this stage, but who knows, things might change in the future. But thank you very much for your question, that was fantastic. Colin Gleason asks, would you ever put your music on iTunes? Good question. I have thought about this a lot because I do want to migrate to an iTunes system rather than the system I have now, where you have to go to my website to download music. I've got two problems to solve with that. The first is that I have to have it that we can have revenue sharing. That is to say that when compositions are bought, the system will automatically send some money to me and some money to someone else. And that's because the songs I put out that have lyricists with them, I insist that they get 50% of any sale that happens. At the moment on my website, that happens. If you buy any of my songs, 50% goes to me, 50% goes to the lyricist. I don't even have to think about it. If that wasn't the case, it would just be an organizational nightmare. So that's a difficult thing to organize with iTunes. So that's one problem I'm trying to solve. The other one is that I also insist on having extra bonus material for anyone who spends any money on anything that I'm doing. So I have to have a way of embedding the link for the bonus material inside the iTunes store. And that's a problem I've not quite been able to solve yet. Once I can get that solved, then I will look to move over to an iTunes system. The iTunes systems I've looked at, you actually need, it almost doesn't really suit the kind of schedule that I have, because you need to upload a piece of music, I think 3 weeks before it goes live for it to be checked, and I do work ahead in time, but I need to probably work even more ahead in time to just have enough time for something to go wrong to be able to fix it up. But I am going to look to do that. So if you're watching in the future, it may well be the case that I'm on iTunes. If you're watching at the moment, not quite yet. But thanks for asking. I'll make sure to speed up my the process of getting it to happen. So thank you. Mary Elizabeth asks, are we ever getting a sequel to Robert's Adventures, and will there be a remastered album for it? Well, thank you, Mary. So there are three things going on with this question. Mary is actually one of the people who was on that forum 10 years ago. And she was also one of the subjects of one of my birthday songs.
Mary, Mary.
And on top of that, she was also a character in Robert's Adventures. So Robert's Adventures, if you don't know, was a little computer game that I made using RPG Maker 2003, just so that I could hire myself as the composer. And it was a 45-minute game, really silly story. It was with all of my online friends, where I effectively saved the world and got the girl, and all that kind of stuff, and threw in lots of in-jokes. And I got to write my own theme. I got to write a love theme. got to write a couple of battle themes. And it was great. It was really enjoyable. So Mary's two questions are: will there be a sequel to it? Mary, we were actually working on a not quite a sequel, but another kind of RPG thing, but that fell dead about 10 years ago. But I'll see if I can find the files and see if anyone wants to resurrect it. We had a really cool story, and that was being written by someone. In terms of the music being remastered, I actually did. I did this and released them on my YouTube channel. So you should definitely look them up. I remixed them and remastered them. So they're all there. They're the ones that you just heard before. So thank you for asking that question, and I hope to see you around soon. Okay, so the next question is from Irvs Hernandez. Hello, Mr. Russell. Hello, Mr. Hernandez. I'm just wondering about that song you teased us with nearly a year ago, titled Together as One. What happened to that song? I was looking for good instrumental music when I came upon your channel and immediately became a fan of your work. Thank you very much. I like the metal version of the Raven Boy the best. I've been waiting for the song Together as One ever since. Thank you, and may your channel get more subscribers. Well, Irvs, thank you for that question. Very lovely of you to ask it. Nothing's wrong with Together as One. It's ready to go, but you may not be aware that I have a bit of a system going with my YouTube channel, and that is that I have 6 streams of compositions. These kind of 4 main instrumental streams, which is my symphonic, orchestral, relaxing music, my heavy metal, battle music, my Celtic, medieval music, and my character theme, location music. So those are my 4 main streams. You can see these in my playlist if you want to look them up. And then I've got 2 song streams. I've got my symphonic metal songs and my ballad orchestral songs. In each of those streams, I am 1 composition ahead of myself. That is to say, that if you watch any video, you'll see at the end there's a preview to the next song or the next composition in that stream, which means that I actually write that composition before I release the one that I've released. So I'm always 1 ahead. So the fact that you've seen Together as One in the preview for the Raven Boy means that Together as One is finished. And I'm sorry that I've had to tease you so much because you've only heard 15 seconds of it. I do feel like I need to satisfy your itch a little bit, so I'll let you listen to another 1 second of it. So it's completely done and ready to go. Why has it not been released yet? Because I need to get the next one done. And I've actually got two or three other ones almost finished. I've just got something else I need to get sorted in order to have them finished. So once one of those is finished, then I'll be able to release Together as One. I'm guessing it'll be in a couple of months. I don't know, it depends. With the songs that I do, I like to work with a lot of other people, which is absolutely fantastic. But sometimes it means that things take a bit longer to get done because people have got stuff to do, which is completely fine. But I'm thrilled that you love the Raven Boy. I think it's one of the best things I've put out already. So hang tight, and Together as One will be in your ears very soon. Cheshire Saxophone. Hello Cheshire, it's fantastic to have you back. Cheshire asks, do you prefer simple or complex music when writing and listening? Why? And hello from Colombia. Well, a good question. I'm gonna have to say both, really. I think complex music, if done properly, can be amazing. And simple music, if done properly, can be amazing. You can have simple music which is too boring. You can have complex music which is too difficult to follow. So it's about striking a balance. It is true that I've always wanted to be able to write something that's so simple that it's perfect. And I think that's a kind of kind of abstract ideal for a composer to follow when trying to write something that is just sort of simplistically beautiful. But then again, if something's complex, now by complex we don't mean complicated, do we? We mean something with a lot of thought that's had to go into it, and it's not so much an inspired selection of sounds. It's a lot of planning and thought and structure to it. They can be amazing to listen to as well, because you can go back and listen to for different bits as you go. So either of them can be done well, either of them can be done poorly. It's just about finding the right way to do it, I guess. Hopefully that answers your question in the way you wanted. Let me know if not the case. Same with all these questions. Feel free to follow up with me in the comments. Darth Sagius asks, which instrument do you feel most attached to, and why? Well, if you're talking about as a composer, that would have to be the piano. I'm primarily a piano player. That's how I was trained. I had private piano lessons since I was would have been 8 or 9. I did group lessons when I was younger, then private lessons from 8 or 9 all the way through high school, and then kept playing in shows and bands since then. So piano is the instrument I could call myself a professional with, although I'm not as much of a performer as I used to be. But I'm very good with it. I've done my 10,000 hours, as they say. So a lot of my compositions are piano based, not all the time, but quite often it's the place I go to come up with the ideas that I want. So that's definitely the case there. In terms of listening, I don't think it's quite the right question to ask which instrument do I listen to. All instruments work in different situations. I do always love the flute. I've never heard a flute being played in a bad situation. That's certainly true. But all instruments bring a different colour and flavour, don't they? So if I had to pick one, that would be the flute, I guess, yeah. Pi on Steam asks, hey there. Hello, Pion. Have you ever tried to use a theremin instrument before? If not, I encourage you to try it out. Keep up the awesome music. Thank you, Pion. I've not played a theremin before, not live. I've not seen a live theremin before, I'm afraid. But I have played a theremin solo on a keyboard in a musical. And this is a musical I did in high school. It was called Big Dreams Little Lunch, which you won't have heard of because it was just a staff-written musical. And for the music, they took songs from the 60s in the first act and songs from the 80s in the second act because it was like a high school reunion story. Anyway, in the 60s, one of the songs was Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. And in there is a theremin solo. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. I still remember it. Wah, 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 wah. And so I played that, but that was just on the keyboard from the school. So that's as close as I've got to a theremin, I'm afraid. Looks cool. I don't have one. One day in the future, I wouldn't mind having a zoo of different instruments, and theremin might be a nice one to add to that collection. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, Mist Essence asks, have you travelled much? If so, how do other cultures and landscapes affect the way you write music, if it does at all? And Sarah Orr asks, how does nature or mythology inspire you to make music? Well, thank you, Mist Essence and Sarah. I decided to group these together. On the travel question, not very much, no. My family tended to go to the same place on holiday every time. Australia is a very large country. I'm from Brisbane, so it's an hour flight to Sydney, and we didn't quite have the money to go on family plane trips. So we tended to do caravan park holiday, which was great fun, absolutely fantastic fun. So as a child, not very much. As an adult, not very much either. My travels have basically been between the UK and Australia. it was mainly one trip to the UK with a rock band, a band called Lord Byron.
Now mighty storm clouds gather in the west, filled with greater promise than any could have guessed.
We came to the UK in 2008 and 2009. But then I was back in Australia for 8 years after that, and now I'm back in the UK. Apart from visiting my brother in the Netherlands, not much else other travelling. So I can't say that I've absorbed different cultures around the world and used it in my music. I don't actually think that I would anyway. I don't think it works that way for me, where I would absorb. I mean, I might be wrong. I should really try and see what happens. But I don't really have an interest in trying to replicate the cultural feels of other countries. Just trying to think why that is. That's never my goal when I'm writing a piece of music, to try and do something in a certain way, or to try and pretend to be someone else. So I don't know if that ever would happen. If something like that did happen, let's just say for argument's sake, I was relocated to Japan and suddenly my music became more Japanese, it would be subconscious. It wouldn't be me actually deliberately trying to do it. So I'll probably never know, but I don't think it would work that way for me. And I think it's the same with your question, Sarah, in terms of nature and mythology. I've heard other people say that being around mountains or forests, lakes, waterfalls, oceans, inspire them directly to write music. I don't think that's the case for me. I still like writing about that kind of thing, but I think deep down what I'm doing is I'm just writing music that reminds me of other music I've heard that tends to be associated with that thing. I don't think it's a direct connection. If there is one, it's a secondary connection. I mean, I do like nature, not as much as some people. I do tend to prefer the living room than the campsite. But I'm still impressed when I see, see a mountain or see a waterfall or see something that's built up over a long period of time. I think the thing that always astonishes me with those is that it wasn't humans that put them there. I think when you grow up, you're so conscious of the fact that adults are kind of placing things around you to kind of make your environment safe. But the good thing when you do go to see nature is you think that's not the case. No one's put this here to look at. It's just here. We found it, and that's interesting to think about. But it doesn't influence me in the notes that I pick. Maybe the instruments a little bit, just kind of sound like bird songs. That could happen, I guess, but I don't think so. Mythology. I think it's a fairly similar answer. I mean, mythology can give you interesting stories to write about, which can give you emotions to explore. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. I don't do it very much. I don't specifically write stories around certain myths. I tend to be more localized at the moment. I'm just writing a song, just sort of a one-off thing about a one-off situation. But I could foresee in the future taking a myth and reworking it and writing music. But it wouldn't be the myth so much. It would just be the attached emotions and the attached feelings of the story that would inspire me, I guess, to do something. I'm trying to be as honest as I can here. I think that's the way it works for me, but I might be wrong. It's not something I think about that much, actually. But thank you for the questions anyway, because it's been interesting to think about and to answer for sure. Okay, Johan Diaz asks me, what is your most beautiful experience working in music and composing songs? Very good question. I've had a bit of time to think about it, and I can think of, well, I'm taking your words quite literally, beautiful experience. I can think of two situations that where I nearly forgot to breathe. That sort of happens with me if I'm so engrossed in something, finding something so beautiful, I seem to forget to breathe and I just suddenly go, suddenly I snap out of it. That's happened twice. Once I've talked about before, I think in one of my previous Q&A videos, which was a performance of a song from a musical that I'm working on by my friend David Kingsmill in East London, and he sang it in front of quite a large audience of which I was a member, and one of my good friends played the piano accompaniment for it, so I had no involvement in the rehearsals and the performance. He just asked me if I had a song he could sing, and that was astonishingly amazing for me to be an audience member, and I remember very vividly how that went, and the audience loved it too. So that was good. That has been topped by an experience I had last year, and I'm a little bit hesitant to speak about this because this is on quite a large project that I'm working on at the moment for my YouTube channel, which is still at least 9 months away from being finished, possibly longer. What I will say is it involves quite a few people, and a lot of those people are singing, and if you're watching this in the future, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but at the moment you won't, which is fine. But I want to answer your question. There was a particular singer who I travelled to record, and he was singing one of the songs that I'd put for him, and it was done so beautifully that I could hardly contain myself. Now, I don't cry very easily, but I was a mess. I was trying to concentrate, I was trying to direct him. Absolute mess. He probably didn't see too much because he was concentrating. A magical evening, and I took it back to the hotel where I was staying to do a quick edit, and imagine this scene. I kind of taken all of my clothes off, ready for bed, and I thought, oh, just to listen to it again. And so I listened to it, and I was sort of staring at my naked self in the mirror, crying my eyes out, listening to it. It was just so good. It was just sung so well. So yeah, a bit hard to talk about because you don't know what I'm talking about. I can't refer you to it, but in the future, you can ask me, were you talking about this? And you'll probably be right. So that was great. I guess I could say it taps into, I think the reason why it's worked is because of the resonance, the question earlier, because it's that kind of theme about, a young man trying to find someone to love him. It just hit all the pressure points on me, and I lost it. So that's absolutely amazing, and I'm very thankful for him for providing me with that experience. So keep an eye out. Obviously, when this thing gets close to being finished, I'll talk more about it and give everyone some previews. But to answer your question, this future thing that you haven't heard of yet is the most magical, or the most beautiful experience that I've had working in my own music, for sure. In terms of listening to other people's music, easily the latest Nightwish album. I can't see how anyone can go past that. The Endless Form was most beautiful. It was an overlapping of two magisteria of my world anyway, and absolutely mind-blowingly beautiful. So that would be the case for someone else's music. So thanks for that question. Very cool question, and a lot of fun thinking about how I was going to answer that. Achilles A. Hello, Achilles. Thanks for commenting again. He says, "You rock, Robert. Nearly 5k subs. Your reward also is quite astonishing. What is your biggest dream, goal, or aim regarding music and appreciation of your works?" I've thought about my answer to this as a composer, so I'll be interested to hear yours. Good question. I tend to prefer not to think too big. Just because I'm scared if I did something like that I would never begin. There is one project that I've got in mind which is huge. It's monumentally massive. And while I have started it's taken me just so long to just keep working on it. It just seems too big to tackle. It's just such a huge mountain. I almost don't have the time. I sort of spend the time doing quicker things. So I'm a bit scared of taking on big projects and having really big goals. I think it's probably better to concentrate ferociously on achieving small goals and hoping that the big picture will put itself together, but without thinking about it. I think that's how I like to approach it. With that being said, it's still good to articulate what you think you'd like to do, even if you don't specify how you're going to begin. So I think one thing that I would love to have happen would be to have a musical produced on the West End stage in London. That would be amazing. So I guess that could be a big goal, but I'm not working towards that goal. I'm not directly focusing everything towards that goal. I'm just doing lots of stuff, lots of different things, and if something starts to merge in that direction, good. If it doesn't happen, fine. I'll still be happy with what I've done already. But it would be one of the nicer things to happen, I would say. A big theatrical performance of a children's fantasy power metal musical. Yeah, let's go for one of them. Yeah, but thanks for your question. It's made me think about what that might be. Jake Shearer asks me, "What is your biggest challenge so far? What do you see as your biggest upcoming challenge? Cheers." Good one, Jake. Really good one. Well, I've been lucky. I've lived a very lucky life. I've not had financial hardship. I've not had family tragedy yet. I've not had anything big to set me back. I know a lot of people have, and so there are big challenges to overcome. I'm also, let's face it, a white male in a white male's world, so I've not had any challenges in that area as well. That's not to say that, we certainly weren't a wealthy family. My parents worked very hard to remove the possible challenges that could have existed for the 3 children, of which I'm one of. So I'm eternally grateful for that. Certainly we've had better opportunities than they had when they were our age, and they had better opportunities than their parents had. So we're certainly very lucky that we've come from a family of hard workers. And while I'm not super well off now, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I worked very hard at school. I was a very good boy. I did all my homework. I was very good at maths. I didn't necessarily enjoy school, but I didn't muck around. I worked hard. I knew that it would pay off in the end. And it has, to the extent that now, in my early 30s, I'm able to make easily enough money to pay all the bills and the rent without having to push myself too hard. I don't have to work myself to the bone to do that. I can work part-time doing a specialised thing. I'm a mathematics lecturer, and that gives me the freedom for enough time to do music things as well, which don't make anywhere near as much money, obviously. So I've probably been very clever about it in planning. Well, maybe not planning, but I've probably done the right things as I was younger to make life a bit easier for me coming up. In terms of biggest upcoming challenges, I guess there are always unforeseen challenges. You know, loss of a family member, a breakup, loss of a limb, accident at work, suddenly going blind. All of those would be challenging, but none of those may happen. As for any foreseen challenges, I guess my death would be a challenge. It'd be hard to get through that, and it also probably affect the people around me, I'm guessing. But I have mentioned to family that because I've got this system of these 6 streams, and I've got these 6 unreleased compositions, it means that I can keep going for another 6 weeks after I check out, which I quite like, actually. I don't know which 6 pieces they'll be, but you know, that can just sort of be the end of the series if I do the YouTube channel for that long. So, but you know, after then it will be a challenge to keep going. That's for sure, and hopefully it's a long way away, not a short way away. But who knows? Have I really answered your question? I don't know. If you think I haven't, let me know and I'll think a bit harder. But yeah, I've certainly been very lucky in life, but worked hard as well, and it's been okay. It's been okay for the moment. But thank you so much for asking. Okay, so I've now got 3 questions which are all very similar. I can't fit them all on the page, but they're all very deep. So if you don't want deep thought, feel free to skip ahead quite a bit. But I will read through the 3 of them now. So Ferdinando Santoro, composer, asks, "Hello Robert." Hello Ferdinando. "Congratulations on almost hitting 5,000. You are great. Thank you. As a composer and a little as a philosopher, I often find myself thinking about the aim of what I am doing. Many philosophers in the past have been related to music. Nietzsche has been a pianist and composer, for example. Do you ever stop and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Or even worse, or better if you want, what is it that I'm doing? Thank you and keep your music great, as always." And you've gone on to say that you ask yourself this every day, and maybe what I say can enlighten you into a possible answer. And then Kavinsky has, hello Kavinsky, he asks, "I'll let you interpret this question however you see fit. What do you see in your music? Or rather, what do you see your music as? Not just for yourself, but to you and to all the world." And then Epic Zevon, hello Epic Zevon. "Hey Robert, 5k is a sweet number. Your original work is always interesting to listen to." Thank you Epic Zevon, your music is very good too. I would like to ask, why do you think making music or making art is so important? How does it impact you personally? And what is your philosophy in making a piece of music? Anything in particular that you aspire to accomplish by doing so? Greetings from Argentina. 3 brilliant questions, and overlapping, but not the same. But I thought I would tackle them all together. So Ferdinando, why am I doing this? Why am I writing music? What makes me want to do it? The short answer is I don't know. I don't know. And what am I doing? I don't really know. I don't think I'm clever enough to know. And I think I personally think it's probably better that way. Certainly, I don't set out to do anything by making music. I hear a lot of conversation about how the arts in general are, or serve a very important function in society. They get people to question things, to think about things, to express themselves. And I think that's all true. I think the mistake that I've avoided is trying to use that to my advantage. And what I mean by that is to try and affect change in people, or to actually try and achieve that end through music. I think, now, this is perhaps controversial, I don't know. I think that that kind of description of the arts, of it being good for society, letting people think, etc., should be something that happens by accident, not by design. Have you ever thought about what it might be like to have a computer, an artificial computer, compose music? Let's say that governments in the world were concerned with people being stressed at work. Just to pick a fairly lukewarm example. And there was an effort to try and reduce stress amongst people working. And it was discovered that if music was written in a certain way, then it could reduce stress. And then some clever computer programmers were able to write algorithms to write the music in this way, and then this music would be pumped out on the train and on the bus on the way home, so that everyone would be happier when they got home. I no longer call that art. But for me, that's writing music for a specific purpose, trying to do something with it. I don't think that's artistic anymore. I think the greatest art is when the artists do it because they feel like it, and they don't know why they feel like it. They just feel like they have to do it. And then it has these side effects, these unintended positive consequences. I think that's the way I prefer it to be put together. Now, it should be said, I've thought a lot about this, and seeing your question, I've not thought so much about this before. But, you know, it did make me think, you know, why am I doing this because I'm trying to do something? And the answer is no. I'm not even trying to do it to make a lot of money out of it, which I guess is something people could do music for. I think I'd have a lesser life if I didn't do this. I think I would always be thinking, gee, I should have done that because I just felt like I wanted to. To me, it's like satisfying a biological urge. I think that's what's happening. Hopefully that's answered your aspect of the question. Kavinsky asked, what do you see in your music? Or rather, what do you see your music as? Not just for the audience, but to you and to the world. A similar question. Again, I don't really know. I don't really know what it is, really. I think I don't know is the best answer I can give. Very scientific answer in a way. Music is a very personal thing. And a very individual thing. I think one thing I like about Nightwish songs, for example, is it gives me the chance to know what it feels like to be the author of the music, to kind of jump into someone else's skin, into their brain for a little bit, and to go, that's what it feels like to be them. It's probably not really at all, because it's my brain listening to the sound and projecting something. So it's an individual thing. And I find this with my friends too. People listen to music for different things. And people listen out for different things in music. That's certainly true. There's no one size fits all, is there? Why do people like some types of music and not others? Don't know. Don't know. But good news for me is I don't think I have to know. I don't think I'd like to know. I think if I did know, it would take the magic out of it. I'd feel like I'm working for someone to produce something, to do something. And that's not what I want to do anyway. I want to do things because they feel good. And Epic Zevon, why is music important? Hard to say. It's probably quite clear that humans have used music for a very, very long time. And so the biological itch that's being scratched is well embedded. Perhaps in the same way that sport is so important, because it scratches the biological itch for wanting to fight other tribes. Do you feel that your tribe is better than another tribe? I've always sort of seen sport as a safe simulation of a war. And it could well be that music is a very similar thing, that it's a simulation of communication and of loving each other. Maybe. I don't know. I need to ask someone who's thought about this a bit more than me. But yes, I don't aspire to accomplish anything. Not in the way that I've been talking about at the moment. I just like to make things that I like to listen to. And if I like it, quite a high chance other people are going to like it as well. And that feels great. Feels fantastic. Okay, and Froggo Doggo, hello, love that name, asks, how does it feel to not only be making good music, nice of you to think so, but also inspire future artists with your new and interesting work? Well, I don't know that I do necessarily. And I've certainly had experiences of working with children with music and then seeing them grow up and become musicians. But I was just a small cog in the wheel in the cog in the wheel, whichever. I think you know what I'm trying to say, in that person's development, and I think that's always the same. I have a similar thing that happens with my mathematics teaching. It's astonishing to see people who were students once upon a time, didn't know anything. I helped them out with stuff, worked for them. Now they've flown well past me and are doing amazing things. But again, I'm just part of that story. It feels good. It feels good. In mathematics, it feels like you've really made a contribution to the world, because you're helping someone somewhere solve something, to do something more efficiently and faster, so that life is easier for us. And so for music, if it means that someone else can have the same pleasures that I've had because of something that I've helped them out with, then that's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. But I don't think I've been around long enough yet to actually see that happen that much, or at least anything that's quite so direct. Well, that's it, everyone. I've finished with all the questions. Thank you so much for them. Very interesting questions. Hopefully this hasn't been too boring and long-winded for you, and it's been interesting. Certainly interesting for me. In terms of my favourite question, Jürgen Uvel. Question about which compositions I haven't, I thought weren't good enough for YouTube. I've decided that's been my favourite question. Very cheeky question. Interesting for me to think about what I was going to say there. So you win. You win. So I'll be in touch, and you can have all the music. Okay. I don't think there's anything much else to say. Thank you so much once again for everything. If you've got any further comments or questions or suggestions, just leave them down below in the description. I'm happy to keep up any of the conversation. Until next time, all the very best, and I'll see you around.
Uh-oh. Oh no, 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 no. Not again. Oh no, 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 no. I think I did it again. I made you believe that this ain't a trend. Oh baby, it might seem like too much, but it doesn't mean that I had a rush. But to lose my defenses, that is just so typically me. Oh boy, boy, whoops, I did it again. I ate all your cake, got lost in the taste. Oh baby, whoops, you will not be happy. In fact, you'll be crappy. I owe you 20 cents. You see, the problem is this: I eat cakes all day, wishing that each one is as good as yours. I try not to complain, but yours tastes so good in so many ways. But to lose my defenses, that is just so typically me, baby. Oh, whoops, I did it again. I ate all your cake, got lost in the taste. Oh baby, whoops, you will not be happy. In fact, you'll be crappy. I owe you 20 cents. Mate, I'm like so sorry, hey. It's definitely not my right to just come and eat all your cakes like that. I just really hope that somewhere deep inside of you, you can find the heart to accept this apology. Whoops, I did it again. Ate your cake, got lost in the taste, oh baby. Whoops, you will be very crappy. I owe you 20 cents. Whoops, I did it again. I ate all your cake, got lost in the taste. Oh baby, whoops, you will not be happy. In fact, you'll be crappy. I owe you 20 cents. Whoops, I did it again. I ate all your cake, got lost in the taste. Oh baby, you'll not be happy. You'll be very crappy. I owe you 20 cents.